20 years, and with the thousands of houses that you've sold, have you ever seen a market like this?
It's a very strange market right now. It's a time where there's a very low inventory and there's a lot of buyers, and it is just super competitive, especially for the lower end homes. It is extremely hard to buy a home right now.
Mm-hmm. And so when people are trying to buy a home for the first time, typically, they are buying less expensive homes. That's just kind of how things work typically. What are first-time home buyers going through?
Well, first-time home buyers a lot of times are people that are just out of college, and I think one of the issues they're dealing with is they're coming out of college and they're not working in a career that they thought they were going to be working in. They're making less money, and they have college tuition is higher. Their college bills are higher, and they just can't afford it. Mm-hmm. Number one, they just can't afford it, and number two, it's like we were saying, it's really difficult to buy a home with low money down. Mm-hmm. It's the home market is very competitive.
Why does low money down translate to being competitive or not competitive?
That's a great question. In a market where sellers can really pick and choose their buyers, it is very typical for a home in the price range of a starter home to have between 5 and 15 offers on it. So the seller can take a look at every buyer and decide, this is the one I want to work with. And typically is what we call the A buyer. They have 20% down or all cash. First-time buyers tend to have 3.5% down, FHA, maybe state bonds, 0 down, or they may even do something like a 5% down conventional. Now, as a seller, you think, well, I want to make sure my home is sold. And so you pick the buyer that's the best qualified. And that's not typically the first-time buyer.
Right. And that's, coming from the mortgage business, I mean, that's really because those deals have a better chance of closing on time. And that's right. Just the fact of the matter. And, I was actually talking with my partner, Ryan, yesterday about how you end up having these escalation clauses that can take things even above the appraised value. And now you have to bring in more cash, and first-time home buyers oftentimes don't have that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Most of the time, they don't have that money. They're doing a low down payment, and many times they even have to have their closing costs covered. And how does that work in a market where prices have escalated beyond what a bank would loan on it?
How discouraged are first-time home buyers right now? I mean, are a lot of them coming up into the market and going, wow, this is not for me?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of these first-time buyers, we've been going through this for 6 years, a market that's been horrible for 6 years. If you're just getting out of college, that means that these people have been going through it since they were a junior in high school. It's really all they know is a bad market. So they come out and they're thinking, well, I want to buy a home. And then they see kind of what's happening right now. They see that it's competitive. You need big earnest money. You got to have a bunch of money down. And it can be very discouraging. There are ways to make it happen, but you have to kind of see the forest through the trees. You got to see that there is a way to make it happen.
How do you have some successful strategies you've been able to implement?
I do. And I think, first of all, the biggest thing you have to realize is who you are. Are you an A buyer? Are you one of those people who has a lot of money down? Because if so, you can pretty much buy any home that you want to. There's a way to make it happen if you have plenty of money down. But if you don't.
Yeah, well, and not to say that first-time home buyers are not A buyers. I mean, there's a lot of people who are coming in through Amazon and Microsoft and Google and all the other big tech companies that have pretty big footprints here, and they have a lot of money.
You're exactly right. And that is a first-time buyer that we don't typically talk about. And that's the people, they have a great job.
They're making $200,000 a year, and really big money jobs.
That's exactly right. And we have a lot of foreigners here that come from another country, and all of a sudden they have all this money down, and they are a first-time buyer, and they are an A buyer. That is exactly right. That is very true.
But the more typical buyer, what we consider a first-time home buyer,
right?
I guess that's what you're saying is you have to know where you kind of sit, where you stand.
That is exactly right. You got to just understand who you are. That is the first step in figuring out what you can buy. And these are some of the strategies that I use with my people who don't have a lot of money down. First of all, I stop looking at the homes that just came out on the market. Okay, but typically those aren't for you because everyone's going to flock to those. And if everyone's flocking to them, the people with all cash, the 20% down, they're going to go to those that are going to buy them first. What we look at is the homes that have been on the market for about 14 to 15 days. If a home hasn't sold in 14, 15 days, it's overpriced. That's all there is to it in this market. So I tell people, I tell the agents in my office, hey, the best thing you can do for your clients with little money down is look for those because there's no competition for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be able to get a price break and you might be able to get your closing costs paid.